Hi guys! So, itutuloy na natin yung sa algebra. And this time, magre-review muna tayo ng rules of radicals. And it will help us also para mas madaling mag-solve ng equation or mag-simplify ng expression. Okay? So, let's start. Okay guys, so before natin pag-usapan yung rules ng radical, alamin muna natin, ano ba tong radical na to? So, radical, ito lang yung pagkuha ng root sa isang number. Okay? And we know na merong iba-ibang klase ng root. Tama ba? So, we have square root, cube root, fourth root, fifth root, and so on. And yung radical, equivalent lang siya yung fractional exponent. So, I have here different types of fractional exponent. So, pag sinabi natin x raised to 1/2, pag sinulat mo siya as radical, it just square root of x. Okay? So, most of the time, pag square root, we don't need to put 2 here. So, blanco siya. But we know that it's square root of x. Okay? So, if we have x raised to 1/3, we're getting the cube root of x. If it's x raised to 1/4, we're getting the fourth root of x. If it's x raised to 1/5, that is fifth root of x. And if we have x raised to 2/3, that is cube root of x squared. Okay? So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung denominator ng fraction ang magdedetermine kung anong klaseng root yung kukunin natin. And then, yung numerator naman nila ang magiging exponent ng number natin sa loob ng radical sign. Okay? So, that's how you rewrite yung fractional exponent kapag ginawang radical. And dapat, familiar na rin kayo kapag yung radical nyo gagawing ding fractional exponent. Okay? So, makikita natin yan later dun sa mga rules ng radical na pag-uusapan natin. Okay guys, so makakatulong din dito sa concept ng radicals pag medyo familiar na tayo dun sa tinatawag nating perfect squares, perfect cubes, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and so on. Alright? And makikita nyo dito yung mga example. Now, paano ba nakukuha yung perfect square? So, sinabi dito na x squared. So, x squared, we can write it as x times x. Tama ba? So, ibig sabihin lang ng exponent, dinedetermine niya kung ilang beses natin imumultiply yung base natin sa sarili niya. Okay? So, let's say, yung x natin, ang value ng x natin ay 2. Okay? So, when we write it, it will become 2 squared. So, pwede siyang 2 times 2, and that is 4. Tama? So, ibig sabihin, yung 4, tinatawag natin siyang perfect square. Okay? So, kaya nandito rin siya sa example natin. Now, paano pag kukunin natin yung original na number or yung base? So, ang gagawin lang natin dun sa perfect square natin ay kukunin natin yung square root. Okay? So, yung square root ng 4 ay babalik lang tayo dito sa base natin. Okay? So, that's why it's very important na alam natin or familiar na tayo dun sa mga sample ng perfect squares para mas madali nating masimplify mamaya yung mga expressions. Okay? Okay, so paano naman nakukuha yung perfect cubes? So, sabi dito, x cube. So, it will become like this. And pwede natin siyang isulat na or expand na x times x times x. Okay? So, let's say yung value ng x natin ulit ay 2. Okay? So, it will become 2 cube. So, it will be 2 times 2 times 2, and that is 8. So, 8 is a perfect cube. Okay? Kaya nandito rin siya sa example natin. Now, what if gusto natin ibalik to dito sa original na number or yung sa base? So, ang mangyayari lang is we need to get the cube root of 8. Okay? And the cube root of 8 is the base na 2. Alright? So, later, so pag kumuha tayo ng cube root, so dapat medyo familiar na tayo dun sa samples ng perfect cubes para mas mabilis mag-simplify. Okay, so let's have the rule number 1. So we have your nth root of xy equals nth root of x times nth root of y. Okay? So, paano na po yung gantong rule? So, balikan natin yung fractional exponent. So, we have here xy raised to 1 nth. Okay? Hindi pa tayo nagbigay ng specific na root, kaya n muna for the meantime. Okay? So, eto daw ay pwede nating isulat na fractional exponent. Tama ba? So, kung naaalala niyo yung rule ng exponent pag ganito, we can just distribute it dun sa both variable. So, it will become x raised to 1 over n times y raised to 1 over n. Okay? So, ito, pag sinulat natin siya, it is nth root of x times nth root of y. Okay? So, that's why parehas lang yung mangyayari kapag meron kang ganito at saka ganito. Okay? So, let's have example. Let's say we have cube root of 216. Okay? So, gusto natin siyang i-break down, i-rewrite. So, kunin muna natin yung factor ni 216. So, guys, dapat medyo familiar na kayo how to get factors. Okay? Kung hindi pa, you can watch my video about factors or just review your elementary lessons. So, hanap tayo ng factor ni 216. Kung possible na meron siyang perfect cube, it's better. Pero kung wala naman, okay lang din. Okay? So, dito, kukunin natin yung perfect cube na factor ni 216 para makita natin yung application ng rule. Okay? So, we have here, pwede natin siya ma-breakdown na cube root of 8 and cube root of 27. Okay? So, pag tinimes mo yung 8 at 27, the answer is 216. Alright? So, factor siya ng 216. And alam natin na perfect cube sila. So, if we will get the cube root of 8, that is 2. And the cube root of 27, that is 3. So, the answer, if we multiply 2 and 3, that is 6. Okay? And we know that 216 is also a perfect cube. So, pag kinuha natin yung cube root ng 216, that is also 6. Okay? So, that's why, kung meron tayong gantong scenario, it's the same answer kapag breakdown natin yung factor ng number na nandun sa loob ng radical sign. Okay? Okay, so punta na tayo sa ating rule number 2. So, we have your nth root of x over y is the same when we write it as nth root of x over nth root of y. Okay? So, paano ito nabuo? Balikan natin yung fractional exponent. Okay? So, isulat natin to as fractional exponent. So, it will become open and close parentheses x over y raised to 1 over n. Okay? So, pag ganito, di ba, ang rule natin sa exponent, i-distribute lang natin sa bawat variable. So, it will become x raised to 1 over n over y raised to 1 over n. Okay? So, kung i-rewrite natin to, it will become n root of x over nth root of y. So, that's why ito ay equivalent lang niya na ganyan. Okay? So, let's have example. Let's say, meron tayong, ano ba yung pwedeng example dyan? So, let's say it's square root of 16 over 4. So, according to rule number 2, pwede natin siyang i-break as square root of 16 and square root of 4. Tama? We don't need to write 2 kung square root din naman yan. So, if we will answer this, then we have square root of 16, that is 4, and square root of 4, that is 2, and 4 divided by 2, the answer is 2. Okay? So, kung ito naman yung sasagutan natin, so we have square root of 16 over 4, so kung ilulowest ilo-lowest term natin yan, or i-divide. So, 16 divided by 4, that is 4. So, kung kinuha natin yung square root ng 4, that is also 2. So, same lang yung magiging sagot. So, indeed, pwede natin i-break down to like this. Okay? Okay, so punta na tayo dun sa rule number 3. So, sinasabi dito na yung nth root of x raised to m is equals lang dun sa nth root of x sa ni-raise dun sa m. Okay? So, paano nabuo tong rule na to? Puntahan ulit natin yung fractional exponent. So, this one, pag sinulat natin siyang fractional exponent ay magiging x raised to m and then raised to 1 over n. Okay? So, yung rule ng exponent, pag ganyan yung scenario, is mumultiply lang natin yung exponent. Tama? So, it will become now x over what? So, di ba pag nagmultiply tayo, m times 1 over n, so, ito magiging over 1. So, magmumultiply lang tayo ng numerator and denominator. And that will become m over n. Okay? So, yan yung mangyayari. Now, ito naman yung gawin natin fractional exponent. So, it will become like this. So, dahil ito yung nasa loob, so it will become x raised to 1 over n, saka natin i-raise dun sa m. Alright? So, again, pag ganito yung scenario, rule of exponent, imumultiply lang natin to. So, this time, it will become n or 1 over n times m. So, magiging over 1. So, ang mangyayari lang is 1 times m, that's m. N times 1, that's n. Alright? So, same lang din yung magiging sagot natin kung i-rewrite natin sila. Alright? So, kaya, yan yung rule number 3 na equal lang sila kapag ganito yung sulat mo or ganito. So, let's have example for this. Okay? Wala tayo. Okay, so let's say we have here square root of 4 squared. Okay, hindi ko na nilagay yung 2 dito kasi alam naman natin na square root pa din yan. So, pwede natin siyang isulat as square root of 4 and saka natin erase sa square. Okay? So, kung sasagutin natin to, ito muna. So, it will become, square root of 4 will become 2, saka natin i-square, and that is 4. Tama? Kung ito naman yung sasagutin natin, so, yung nandun muna sa loob ng radical sign, so that is 4 squared, that is 16. And when we get the square root of 16, we have 4. So, same pa rin ang magiging sagot, anuman yung magiging way kung paano mo siya sinulat. Okay? So, that is rule number 3. Okay, so let's have the rule number 4. And medyo complicated siya, pero intindihin lang natin kung bakit ganito yung nabuong rule number 4. Okay? So, we have here nth root of x. And pwede natin siyang isulat na nth root of t root of x. So, ibig sabihin, kukunin muna natin yung t root ng x, saka natin kukunin yung nth root ng root na yon. Okay? So, in this case, pwedeng magbaliktad yung n tsaka t. Pwede siyang maging t root of nth root of x. Okay? So, paano nabuo tong rule number 4? So, balikan natin yung fractional exponent. So, kung i-rewrite natin to, it will become x raised to 1 over n t. Okay? So, eto, pwede natin siyang i-break down as, diba, product siya ng 1 over n times 1 over t. Okay? So, kung i-distribute natin siya, so it could be like n raised to 1 over, or x raised to 1 over n times raised natin sa 1 over t. Tama ba? Kasi kung minultiply natin to, parehas lang din yung magiging sagot. Okay? So, in this case, pag nire-write natin to, it will become nth root of x. Tama? And pag nire-write pa natin silang lahat, So, yung t magiging t root of nth root of x. Okay? So, again, pwede natin siyang isulat then na nth root of t root of x. Okay? So, let's have example for that. Okay? Para mas intindihan natin siya. Okay, so we have here 6 root of 64. So, according sa rule number 4, pwede natin i-break down yung root natin. So, yung factor ng 6, it could be 2 and 3, right? So, we can write it like this. Cube root of square root of 64, okay? Or, pwede rin nating isulat na square root of cube root of 64. Okay? So, let's see kung same ba talaga yung magiging sagot pag kinuha natin yung roots nila. So, gamitin natin to. So, let's say cube root of square root of 64. So, ang una nating sasagutin, syempre yung nandito. So, yung square root ng 64 ay what? That is 8. Tama? 8 times 8, 64. And then, saka natin kunin yung cube root niya. And the answer for that is 2. Okay? Now, ang 6 root ng 64 ay 2 din. So, same sila ng sagot. You can check yung tables, guys, na examples. Or pwede kayong gumawa, guys, ng perfect squares, cubes, 4th, 5th, or 6th, and so on tables para mas familiar na kayo, guys. So, in this case, yes, same sila ng sagot. So, ibig sabihin, kung nire-write nyo yung gantong scenario dito, simplify, parehas lang din yung magiging sagot. Okay? Okay, so let's have the rule number 5. So, we have here nth root of x raised to n. And to simplify that, it's just equivalent dun sa x or dun sa number na nasa loob ng radical sign, yung base, okay? So, for us to prove kung talagang yun yung, kung equal sila, let's have example. So, let's say, cube root of 2 cube. So, let's answer. So, it will become, syempre, nasa loob muna ng radical sign. So, it will become cube root of 8. And the cube root of 8 is 2. So, yun lang din yung sagot. Let's have another one. So, let's say, square root of, wag na natin ilagay yung 2. Square root of 4 squared. Okay? So, same sila na 2. So, let's say, so 4 squared, that is square root of 16. And the square root of 16 is 4. So, yes, same sila ulit. Okay? So, that is rule number 5. So, sa susunod na video, guys, magsisimplify naman tayo ng ating radicals at gagamitin natin yung mga pinag-usapan nating rules. Okay? Okay, guys. So, regarding sa rule number 5, kapag ang square root natin, let's say we have a square root of negative 2 squared. So, di ba same naman sila? Pero, kung ang radicand nyo ay negative or less than 1, hindi mag-a-apply yung rule number 5. Kasi, ang magiging sagot dito ay square root of positive 4. And pag kinuha nyo yung square root ng 4, that is 2. So, hindi naging same yung sagot sa radicand at saka yung sagot na lumabas. Okay? So, hindi na-apply ng rule number 5 na ito lang din yung lalabas. So, again, kapag meron tayong square root and in-square siya pero negative yung radicand, hindi lalabas na sagot yung radicand mismo. Okay? Kasi yung isa positive, yung isa negative. Okay?